Welcome to the Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning in on SpiceFM, on KTN Home, or online on YouTube and Facebook, where we are live streaming the show. We have a guest in the studio. He's the Honorable David PKOSING, MP for Pokot South, and also the Chairman of the Public Investments Committee on Commercial and Energy Affairs. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning, Latif.
Good to have you on the show again.
Good to hear you. Good to be here. The best studio again in this country, I think so.
Not just the country. Can you say that statement again now properly?
Okay, the world. The best studio in the world. Is that okay, Latif?
Kabisa.
Bas.
Kabisa. It's good to have you. It's good to see that you're safe.
Yes, I'm really safe. Yeah? I'm really safe and well. Yeah.
You're well.
I'm sure why you're asking that question, but I'm okay.
Now, we had seen that you are going through some tribulation. You'll tell us about the ongoing operation in your region, and you'll also tell us what your constituents are telling you.
Yes.
But before you do that, hear the day's proverb. This week's proverbs are from which country? City?
Rwanda. Whose capital is?
Kigali.
Yes. Okay. In a court of fowls, a cockroach never wins his case.
In a court of fowls, a cockroach never wins his case.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa, do you relate to that proverb?
No, I don't. Because there's nothing positive in my place that comes from cockroach. So
even in a court, in your own court, a cockroach would never win its case.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But there's nothing positive about cockroaches in my place.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means.
But do they deserve justice?
I think we need to have the animal people, the animal rights people. And I think if that is the case, then they can talk. But from where I come from, they have no justice.
Cockroach, ukiona cockroach, maliza.
Cause problems. They spoil milk. They spoil everything.
City, why this proverb?
If you look at the history of Rwanda, why I picked this particular proverb, one of the things that led among the narratives that one heard before the genocide was how it is people were profiled, dehumanized, and were actually being referred to as cockroaches.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. You see, when someone is dehumanized, then it becomes a lot easier for someone to harm them because in your mind, you're not harming a human being. So this term has multiple meanings. But then, according to this particular proverb, we are saying that what do fowls eat? What do they normally eat? They eat insects. Cockroach falls into that category. So if a cockroach happens to walk carelessly in the presence of chicken, as we call them, the chances of survival are next to zero. Yes. So you will be treated unfairly because, as you said correctly, these are the animals considered to be food. Yes.
Condemned and hard.
Before anything happens. So the decision about your life has already been made. So it does not really matter what you do.
Yeah.
You will not get justice. Yes.
That's it. That's it. Mheshimiwa, you're here so we talk about the cost of power in the country. I know your committee was holding some sittings last week. You'll tell us about that. But quickly, let's talk about also the other matter. There's an ongoing operation in your constituency among others in your region. What's the latest so far from what you hear?
What's the latest? The army are there. The police also are there. And if you look at this operation carefully, and if you look at the provisions of the constitution upon which the government used to then send the KDF there, they send them under police, meaning this is actually a police operation. But KDF was sent to help. It's just like sending KDF to help during fire and something like that.
Yep.
So it's going on there. What is the most unfortunate from where I come from, which is West Pokot, they send this army to be based in Kainuk, and also police are also based in Kainuk, because that's the disturbed area. Pokot, for us, West Pokot and Turkana border, West Pokot and Marakwet border a bit, and that's where they send the KDF and then therefore the police. But what is disturbing us as a community and as Pokot people is that even with that presence of army, right? Actually, Pokot lost more than 2,000 animals on Saturday.
Wait.
The day before yesterday.
This Saturday?
This Saturday.
Okay.
Pokot lost more than 2,000 cows.
How?
You know, and this is surprising, Latif, that there was a seriously organized raid. We used to hear about, and when I say raid, organized raid, is when you can have more than 300 people or 100 people or youth or something like that, or bandits. Now there's a new word in this town called bandits, and that's very popular. Anything happens in this town and in this country, now it's bandits.
Yeah.
But before that, if you push it back, they used to be called Moroccos, and then it mutated now to something called raiders. And we stayed with that word raiders for a while. So in 80s, Latif, in 80s, late 70s coming to 80s, we used to have something called raiders, organized. They organize themselves. They move in large numbers, right? If it is from Pokot, they then move in large numbers to raid Turkana. And if from Turkana, they also move in large numbers to raid Pokot. Now, we've not seen it for a while until last week on Saturday, is when Turkana bandits entered into that border. Now, the cows of Pokot are between in Masol Ward, which is in West Pokot and Pokot Central sub-county, and also they are in Kasai, the low Kasai of Mbolion division, because of drought. There's a serious drought that place, and therefore animals have gone around the river. And this river I'm talking about, Latif, is River Takwel. That's the only river now at the moment in the entire belt where you can see water. In River Kerio, downside from where we come from, there's no water, right? So all animals have moved towards this side of River Takwel. And animals have been grazing very well. So when the government declared operation and brought in the army, what happened to the Pokot? Because Pokots are peaceful. And I want to tell you this, Latif. People don't understand that Pokots are peaceful. People don't understand that they are not bandits. We have suffered that misrepresentation of our image, or a Pokot image. That when you see a Pokot, you see a raider. When you see a Pokot, you see a bandit. We have been called those names. And I might have suffered because of that bad image. I call it distorted image. That people think that you are a thief, you are a bandit, you are all these names. And why? Because of very long propaganda and negative politics from our own neighbors. So when government to come near to this very bad incident that happened the other day, and that's related to operation that you have asked me. So when government declared operation and brought in the army, what happened in that belt is that the Pokot herders and the village people decided then to herd the animals using a walking stick. Ile fimbo ya mzee, ile ya kuchunga ng'ombe, right? As opposed to maybe using guns, right? Because there's army, there's police, there's operation, and therefore there's no danger, there's no threat. So our people then grazed as normal. Wait, we didn't see this. Kumbe on the other side, our human beings, our brothers and neighbors from the Turkana were actually organizing a raid of more than 300 people, youth. The kind of raid that we have only had during the past years, as I was telling you, 1970s and the 80s, and that's the end. So they moved from various places where we are told from Loima, which is towards the border of Uganda, and from Turkana East, that is the side of Lokori. So they came through Kalimorok and entered into the border, Kainuk, and drove more than 2,000 animals. They got some 2 grazing boys who were taking care of animals during the day, Saturday morning.
Did they kill anyone?
They killed two boys.
Two boys were killed.
Were just taking care of animals.
How wide is this area from where 200 cattle?
Yeah, I gave you like about a division. Yeah, 2,000, not 200. 2,000 cows, yes. It was in the main media yesterday. You saw that.
So it was a coordinated attack in more than one place.
It's a coordinated. This is a belt. Because as I told you, if you can understand, it's along Takwel River.
Just along the river.
So it's actually a belt. So you would find about even more than 5,000 animals and cows grazing. There's no other place where they graze. And therefore, it's very unfortunate. The Pokot on this side, which are peaceful, and government, and listen to government. When the government told them, now we are around, there's operation. So what happened? the Pokot decided just to be peaceful and graze the animals using walking sticks. Ile fimbo ya wazee. Kumbe, and then the Turkanas were actually organizing a serious raid.
How do you know these are Turkanas?
Because who else would come? And that's a very good question. But who else would have come in that area? That's the border of Pokot and Turkana. Who else?
Are you saying that it is not possible for any other community to have raided?
No, it's not possible.
Or any other person, even from your own community?
No. Pokot don't raid each other. That's for information. Pokot don't raid any other Pokot. Right? These are only Turkanas. And in fact, we know where they drop the animals to. And listen to this. First of all, get this point correctly. The army are there. Operation is going on. And then Turkanas had an opportunity to organize themselves and move in that large numbers without being noticed by the army or the police. All the way from Loima, all the way from Turkana East, up to Kainuk, area of Kainuk, and raiding that animals, killing 2 boys, Pokot boys, and driving 2,000 cows. And on Saturday evening, they drove them to a village, a kind of a big village in Turkana, right? And the police knew, and the army knew. In fact, when they attacked during the day. The army had to be called in. But those Turkana bandits overpowered the army.
What are you saying?
I'm telling you.
So there was an altercation between the raiders and the military?
Yes. In fact, there was a military chopper on that Saturday that was trying to rescue these animals. Can you imagine? Even with chopper. That, I'm not sure whether that's, I don't know the color of that chopper, but that's a military chopper,
so
right?
So you're saying, Mheshimiwa, it's not working? Because I remember the last time you were here, you told us categorically that if we were to see the presence of, armed forces, if we were to see the presence, 1 kilometer away from each other, that we would see a difference. So, and then now here we are with the situation whereby it seems not to be working. So why do you think that is?
This kind of model of operation and sending army will not work, right? Reactionary method of sending army to quell certain things, like now what's going on, cannot work. But I was trying to emphasize that point, that little did the Pokot community knew that there was army and therefore there was peace. We didn't know that the Turkans were taking advantage and organizing themselves. It's terrible. And they overpowered the army and drove away the 2,000 animals. Up to
what I'm
village.
hearing you saying, Mheshimiwa, let's just go step by step. Number one is that you are saying that the Pokot have disarmed.
I would say...
Have they surrendered their firearms, or are they leaving them at home?
They have surrendered some of them. And in fact, the surrender was going on.
And the others are at home.
I don't know where they are and whether they have. But what I'll assure
this
to you...
This entire belt that you're talking about had Pokot who were grazing their livestock, and none of them was armed.
Yesterday, when they were coming, none.
None of them was armed.
Yes, except using walking sticks, because the army were there. They're in Kainuk.
So they were basically grazing within walking distance, or within within earshot of the military.
Exactly.
And then you say that there were people who were armed, who came and attacked them, not at one spot, but various spots
of that belt
within the same day. Happening almost simultaneously. And they were all attacked. The Pokot are unarmed. The people who are raiding them are armed.
Very armed.
And the military are nearby. And the military were not able to.
They responded.
But they were not able to.
But they were overpowered. True.
And the animals have gone.
And animals have gone.
And the security forces have not been able to recover these animals.
Even one. That's the truth.
But you and the members of the community know where the animals were taken to.
They were first of all, they were taken to Kalimorok. Right? To sleep overnight. That's on Saturday night. It was really organized. This was a serious organized raid. And that is why I'm getting even more worried. We as a community are getting worried. We're getting worried that when we are working for government and with government to be able to pacify the entire area, another community is actually free to organize such. Let me ask you, Latif. How can more than 300 people organize themselves? Walk thousands, or maybe even take it. How?
That's why I'm asking these questions, because, Mheshimiwa, from what I'm hearing, the implication of what you're saying today nationally, Mheshimiwa, is that a security operation is ongoing. But what you're implying directly without saying it is that the raiders are still getting the support of the military. Because you're saying
by not being intercepted, yes.
Because you're saying if it's possible for them to organize,
yes.
If it's possible for them to group, to live wherever they are living, to come all the way to this belt, to attack people who are herding their livestock,
yes.
to drive the livestock away, and 2 days later for the livestock not to have been recovered, it can only mean that you are alleging that they are enjoying protection.
What I'm alleging, I'm not really alleging. I'm saying that I am seeing advantage that the Turkana bandits, of course, many Turkanas are peaceful. Even they live in Kainuk with Pokot people. Those who are bandits took advantage. And I don't know how they read that the Pokots now have been pacified, and therefore, in quotes, right, they have taken out their defense, right, for defense of government. And they have taken advantage when they came in and drove animals and killing 2 people. They have taken advantage. Something somewhere is not correct.
What is this thing? And I think it continues to be the bane of this entire thing. Is that here we are saying, okay, that it seemed as though it needed the hard arm of the law, as it were, to come down here. But then we're saying that there's one side that's being then advantaged over the other. Whereas it was said, I mean, you were not the first one to say, let's have some kind of presence there.
Yes.
You were not the first one to say it.
Yes.
Others have said it.
Yes.
Okay, so now it's happening. But then again, it is not working.
No.
So then, does it then fuel the speculation that this entire thing is being orchestrated and it is not just natural occurrences that would happen between 2 communities?
No. I think we are being misunderstood. We have not been understood properly.
And by we is...
We, meaning the entire people who live in that belt, Turkanas, Pokots, and so on.
Okay.
You know, our argument has been, and I want to tell you this, Madam Du, get this understanding correctly. And I want to say what I said last year, that my take is this: let us have the police, the army, living there, right? 5 kilometers army, 5 kilo in that belt. I even drew you the map of that belt. I'm still insisting. I'm still in that let us have army living. The army who have gone now have gone for an operation, not to pacify and bring order. That is the difference. So when you bring army like yesterday, right? Maybe even the Turkana bandits were not even aware that the army were there. Maybe they didn't know, because to organize a raid is not like one day. You take like 1 or 2 months, right? There was even some social media, which I don't believe, they were actually showing people practicing to do a raid. I do not know whether it was this what happened. I can't confirm that. But it takes time to organize a raid of about 300 people. And therefore, my thinking is, when those bandits were coming, they didn't know that the army were there. But if you were, for example, to put the army to live there, to bring order in that belt, they would not have organized. And even if they were to organize, then they cannot walk all the way freely, the way these bandits were walking to kill and take more than 2,000 animals. They would not have walked. But when you send army, in fact, this army were there for less than 2 weeks. They have not even known the terrain. To be honest to you, these people are from Nairobi, maybe they are from Mombasa, others, and so on. They even don't know how that the terrain is. They are there, not because they want to be there. They were forced to be there. So they are also fearing, how are these people? And they were hearing that police were killed.
But they are working with the police.
Yes, so they are not ready. I will tell this.
And the police reservists.
They were caught unaware.
Police reservists are also police.
Yeah, they are working with police reservists, but Pokot don't have even a single police reservist.
What?
Yes. Police, the current government, armed the entire neighbors of Pokot except Pokot. Pokot don't have even a single police reservist.
Why?
I wish the person from government could be here. But Professor Kindiki would be here to answer that question. I think they don't like Pokots. Yes. I think they have concluded that Pokots are the worst criminals, that they should not be assisted. I would say that, without fear of any contradiction.
What would fuel
because
this?
Then what would explain if, for example, government arms communities around one community, right, in the name of NPR? What would explain that? This is Kenya. What would explain that? There's no one KPR in Pokot or NPR in Pokot, as I talk to you.
Is it that they were never there, or the ones who were there were decommissioned?
They were there. That's a very good question, my good brother. They were there. NPR were there for everybody, right? And when I say everybody, is the communities that live around Pokot. They were NPRs. The last government decided to demobilize them. That's a very good word in terms of military and peace studies. They decided to demobilize NPR, which we like as local leaders. I am of the opinion that there should never be any human, any civilian with a gun, whether NPR or no NPR. We should have security instead of NPR. Because if you bring Pokot NPR, they will behave like Pokot, and even also maybe use those arms against another community, which is not good. Because if you're arming Pokot against who? Against neighbors like Marakwet or against neighbors like Turkana. Is that what you want to do? So what happened is that in the process of disarmament, the last government decided that let us first of all disarm NPR, which was a very good thing in my view. After disarming now NPR, they were supposed to go to the second phase, which is now to disarm the armed illegal arms from the community. That was a good thing. So that government went. And remember, all NPRs had been demobilized in the entire belt from these sides of Marakwet, Turkana, Pokot also. When this government came, for the last now 5 months, they have again revisited the NPR, but not for Pokot. That is where I do not know whether the irony is not for Pokot. So they gave the other communities their NPR. And they have not given Pokot NPR.
The government has held meetings with leaders from this area. Have you attended any of those meetings?
They have not called us. Government has never even stepped in West Pokot to come and talk to us. And when I mean government, senior leadership of security, political leadership of security, they have never stepped in West Pokot to ask anything.
Where have they been going? Where has Professor Kindiki been going?
He's been going to other communities except Pokot.
Which other communities? Has he been to Baringo?
Yes.
Has he
He's been Baringo, he's been
to
Marakwet. Tiati is Pokot. He's not been in Tiati. He's been to Marakwet. He's been to Samburu. He's been to Turkana. He's been to Baringo. He has never stepped West Pokot.
Have you ever had an opportunity to have a one-on-one with him and to ask these very same questions to him in terms of why then has there been no visitation to West Pokot specifically?
We've not met to ask that question. We met earlier when he was appointed as the minister. You remember I was in the vetting.
Yes.
And I asked him those questions. Professor Kindiki is my very good friend, right? We started politics together, and in the same side of political divide for a while. So when he got the job, we decided to say, yeah, congratulations. He's human. So we went to his office and say, yeah, Mheshimiwa, congratulations that you are in. We wish you well. So please, when you settle, then you can have engagement in terms of then what goes on. And I was not alone. I was with other leaders from Pokot. So we had a little kind of congratulatory meeting. That was not a seriously organized meeting for peace.
Yeah.
Then we told him, now when you settle, please then you can now engage.
Yeah.
Then we can have meaningful engagement. Of course, you cannot avoid throwing one or two advice or maybe what you think way forward to the minister. Suggestions, good word. Suggestions to the minister. Even if when you are saying congratulations, you tell the minister, please pay attention to this and this. That was the last time when we saw Professor Kindiki officially. Of course, we have had a lot of political fights, because then when you see another community being armed against your community, of course you can't keep quiet as a politician, as a leader. You must throw some punch. Sometimes it is a bit hard, but what do you do? It's necessary, right? Sometimes it hurts them or hurts him. Sometimes, but anyway, to be honest, it's not stepped in West Pokot, and that is why we have taken an offer. We are thinking, then maybe the negative propaganda against our community has entered into government offices, and therefore even informed decision making, which is very unfortunate. Because Latif, how can you explain that? First of all, the minister has not stepped your own county to come and listen to the leadership, local leaders, opinion leaders, religious leaders, for us to engage and say what is the way forward.
Has he never called the Pokot leaders to come and talk about these issues?
Never.
Has he called other leaders from the neighboring community?
Yes. He's gone there, not even Gold. He's gone there.
Let's take a break. You'll tell us about what then you are doing about it. Okay? So if he hasn't reached out to you, have you reached out to him? if he has reached out to you, have you used the, parliamentary pastoralists, communities caucus to reach out to him on all these other avenues that you have at your disposal? We'll discuss that. 27 minutes to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. David PKOSING is the Member of Parliament for Pokot South constituency. He's also a chairman of the Parliamentary Investments Committee on Commercial and Energy Affairs. We invited him to talk about commercial and energy affairs, but there's an ongoing operation which has taken the first half an hour, and we'll continue with it for a bit.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
David PKOSING from Pokot South constituency. You've made several allegations this morning, Mheshimiwa. First of all, you've talked about this raid that happened on Saturday, where you say some over 200 people raided members of your community, and they drove off with over 2,000 heads of cattle. And none of them has been recovered, not even a single one. And you say that your community had disarmed. They were actually just out there grazing with walking sticks. Not a single one of them had any weapon, any gun. Then the attackers came and they had guns. There's a military operation ongoing, and despite the security officers responding, they were not able to recover any of the stolen livestock. And you have the intelligence to know where the livestock were taken, where they spent the night, and from there where they left, where they went to. So you are also able to track where the animals have been. And you're saying it's not possible for the security agencies to track the same?
That is the question, Latif. That's all Kenyans who are listening to me. I know they may not believe me.
Question is,
that's the question they're asking.
Did this raid actually take place?
Yes, it did. It happened.
Is there a way of verifying that 2,000 animals were stolen?
You see,
not 100.
Because
not
I'm the one
50,
talking, you might think that
10.
I'm conflicted, because then I'm from Pokot community, and I will not ask for an apology for being a Pokot. I'm very proud to be one. But Latif, there are also systems of government, security systems of government. You can call the OCPD Turkana, or you can call the person in charge of operation in Kainuk, and they will tell you this. Yes, they will tell you that. It's not, and the information I'm telling you, I've also talked to them. Although I come from there, but I also talk to them. Yes. Latif,
that was the next level of my questions.
I've talked to them.
Which is, which officials have you actually reached out to since Saturday?
I have reached
to discuss this particular matter.
I've reached to most of the people in security, right? Including both ministers.
Who's the highest that you've talked to?
I've talked to in messages to the ministers, because maybe they were engaged.
Who have you engaged with? Like they've talked back.
The talk back is the person in charge of Astu in Kainuk, and also the person in charge of KDF in the same place, Kainuk. Yes.
And these are the ones who are in charge of the operation in this particular area.
Absolutely.
What did they tell you?
They told me what I've told you, that when they were working very hard, they were unable. And I don't primarily or directly blame them. To be honest to you, they're only 2 weeks there. They're also human beings, right? They're also human beings. They're children of people like me and you. So in that understanding, you would just say, or maybe 1 or 2 days or 3 days or another 1 week or 2 weeks, they will have been able to understand the terrain. And that is my understanding, right? But you see, the question I'm just putting myself, even if those army are in Kainuk and that area, how can 200 people come all the way without being noticed? Even from now the regular security who are there. How? Were they colluding with them? Leave alone now the people who were sent the other day to do operation and help pacify the entire place. What about the people who are there? Are they colluding? Are they compliances and something like that? So Latif, this is a very, and why am I talking in so emotional? It's because the operation is there. Our people have disembarked or disarmed. They were even working. I will tell you this. They had even very good plans. In fact, the 2 officers who were sent by national government to Kainuk were already engaging recovery of now the proper operation, recovery of guns. They were engaging the chiefs. They were engaging the mukasas or the village elders and so on in the proper manner. And they were reaching certain consensus in terms of moving in recovery. And that is on the Pokot side, which I understand, which is my own community. Little did we know that the other communities were taking advantage and organizing the raid. Little did we know that. And therefore, our people had disembarked. They were the KDF and ASHTU are moving in the entire belt, which I'm telling you. They're all over the place. You cannot have a gun.
Mheshimiwa, I have to ask, because looking at this, again, I go back to when Professor Kindiki was being vetted, and one of the questions he asked was, how are you actually going to solve this problem?
Yes.
And one of the things that he said he would even move into this area. That's one of the things he said. Maybe speaking figuratively or speaking definitively, that he would actually have presence there. But from the last few minutes of this conversation, I can hear the frustration, and I can sense that actually these latest moves then do not seem to be working because of several different factors. You talk about habitable presence.
Yes, habitable, that's the best word.
By
habitable presence.
The armed forces.
Yes.
You talk about that. That's absolutely necessary to happen. If this is a suggestion that has come from you, from others, why do you think it is so difficult to have that done? Because we have seen in the last 2 weeks that it is clear that even with the military presence there, that's this operation, this thing is not working because the raids continue, the theft continues, the danger continues. Why is it so difficult to have this habitable presence in this area?
I don't know. We've talked about it. And last time I was here, and I will say again, it's been done in Uganda. Habitable presence. Why? Because then you bring order. So that when the Pokot are grazing, right, they're grazing with certain level of order. The police will tell them, or the ADIM will tell them, today you are drinking water in this part of the river.
Yeah.
Maybe in the morning or between now, maybe until 11. Then from 12 noon, then the Turkanas also can come and share the same water.
Yes.
Because then Turkanas also will go nowhere, right? Or the other communities will not, they must share this small or little resource. So you bring kind of some order, right? And when you're bringing order, then you build schools. You provide for what I call alternative livelihood. I will tell you to do. I invited you last time. I don't know how you're going to go there now with operation. There is no other livelihood there. I don't blame Turkanas. I don't blame Pokots. If you go to that belt, there's no livelihood. So what's the livelihood? Livelihood is a cow, and even it's also religious.
Yeah.
So if you're sick, then they have to sell that a goat for you to go to hospital. If you're going to school, there's no school in the first place. So the children have got to go to school. So we were thinking that then when you bring the habitability of army, then the army will build school, right? Army will build school. Of course, you'll ask me now, what about decentralized government or this devolution government and so on? That's another thing. There's no security there. There's no presence of security. So then army will build schools, will build roads, will build hospitals. The way Kibaki did, we have been having operations in every government. By the way, for your information, every government has been having operation. Kibaki brought the best kind of operation, which is when you're doing operation, disarming people, provide for them alternative livelihood, so that they don't go back, they don't sink back. And Kibaki succeeded almost 100% in western part of West Pokot. That is the Pokot, Uganda, the Pokot Sabay. We used to have a very big problem. You used to hear us fighting with Sabay, fighting with Luya here in Transoya. You used to hear a lot of those. Our animals and cows were going to graze into, maize plantations of Luya. And Pokot don't understand. They are saying, what is the problem? This is a grass. They don't understand that actually it will grow up to become maize. So they didn't understand that because there was no order. So Kibaki came in, brought in order in that belt. And there's no problem. Brought in schools, building roads, right? Hospitals, water, water boreholes and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That is Kibaki. And that's why if you go there, Latif and Andu, when you go to that belt, which is West and West Pokot, entire border between Pokot and Transoya, very peaceful. There are almost 300 kilometers of Pokot, or West Pokot and Uganda, very peaceful. We have a problem in a very small area, which I don't know why it has defeated government to listen and even to borrow a leaf from Uganda. This belt between, which is inside, from Takwel, right? Coming to now Kainuk, where there's a big problem, going to this sides of Lokori, Lomelo, right? And going to Barakoi. It's a very small area. So that if you were to then bring the army to stay in this place, build schools, build hospitals, and then bring in connection of roads, you'll achieve what? People will get alternative livelihood. That's number one. Number two, even if they had guns and you stay there for 15 years, that gun will be useless. It will rust, it will be bad, it will be thrown away. And then the third one is you will have removed the generation of young people. That if you go to these raiders who came from Turkana, they are about 200. The oldest will be 15 years. 15 years, imagine. So if you stay there for 15 years, for example, and building schools and make people go to school, you will have cleared that generation to school.
Yes.
Entire generation. So you don't have anybody in between here who has not gone to school, and therefore there's no rate. You do not have rate between 15 years and below. Then you'll have graduated the one who are in rate. Then bring them Hustlers Fund or something. Then take them away to something useful there. Then this generation, small generation, take them to school. 15, 30 years, Latif, remove your army. I bet that is the best strategy that can happen.
Essentially, you're saying it can't be an operation that lasts for a month or 2 months.
Useless.
It has to be something that is given a priority in terms of decades.
Absolutely.
Not 1 year, not 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. Essentially, you're thinking of the model that Museveni used in Uganda among the Karamajong.
Yes. And it worked. You remove entire generation to school. So who will be raider, my good brother? Nothing. We've talked about that. We've said it. But this reactionary of taking 1 month, taking people to go and earn some per diem or I don't know what you call them, for 1 month and something like that, operation money is offered, then you bring them. And then what happens? They will sleep over. Have you removed the generation? No.
Mheshimiwa, let me ask this question. What role has the church played in trying to quell these conflicts?
Very good question. They have really tried. But the moment there is no order, my good brother. So, for example, if you take a church, there is even a church I'm helping in this side of Tiati. In fact, I went to encourage. There's a missionary from Eldoret who went to establish a church at a place called Congo in Tirioko ward of Tiati. That is still where our community are living. And in fact, I visited him, and I almost cried, because the place he went to a place where you would say is a no man's land. Really no man's land. Established a small church, AIC church from Eldoret. So he started a small church and he's trying to do something there. And really, I was really moved. The church plays a really critical role. The problem will be if, for example, if that church is a Turkana church in that wilderness, and then Pokot come and raid and kill people around there, they will run away. And therefore the church will die. And that's why we're saying, let us have presence. Let us have what she says, habitable presence of KDF or army. Then now you bring in church, you bring in hospital, you bring in water and so on, and life will be normal. Organized, normal, formal life will be present.
We'll be back to normal.
15 years, 20 years, remove your army now. Do whatever you want to do.
Mheshimiwa, you started by saying that the current operation is actually a police operation and the military are there only to help the police.
Yes, that's the model, yeah.
And you said for that reason, you find no problem with the ongoing operation in terms of legality of the presence of the military. But is that really what is envisaged in law?
Yes,
that
it is.
If military are working under police, then even members of parliament does not need to be consulted?
Yes, no. If you look at I didn't bring the constitution, but I read it when it was being done. The section they have used is what I'm telling you, that the army are going just to help. That is provided for in the constitution. And therefore, you only inform parliament. There's no debate, there's no approval. But there's also a section which, if they're deploying, they can use. They will now seek approval, like what they did for Congo, right? So when they did for Congo, they sought for approval. Is
there any situation envisaged in the constitution where the military would operate within the borders of Kenya without working with other security agencies?
Yes.
Like which one?
That's why I'm telling you, Latif, the answer is yes. And I give you, if you do a model of staying, like for example, Latif, who will deny our government building a barracks, for example, in Lomelo or in Kainuk, let's say, for example, let's take an example of the area which is a bit disturbed. Where do you need that approval?
See, barracks is different from operation.
But you see, that's what I'm saying. I don't like operation. I need habitable, which is like a barracks. Yes.
We have.
It's just like maybe
we have a barracks in Langata.
Take this one from Langata. Take to Kainok.
Is the barracks in Langata doing anything around Langata community? It's not.
Nothing.
Because it's not deployed.
You see,
it is just a military barracks.
Yes, let me tell you, when they have
officers in Langata cannot walk out and start arresting people because there is insecurity.
But that is not
on Langata Road.
It has never been a responsibility of any military to arrest.
Okay.
Is to pacify. But Kibaki did, my brother, and he succeeded. So why are we arguing? Why are we having a lot of academic discussion?
I'm asking this because
in Kenya, I'm not saying about us here.
The question,
the country is engaging in a necessary academic discussion.
Because what you're proposing today is you have longer term military presence in your area.
Yes.
And I'm asking, would that be the kind of current operation where you have a 30-year operation, or would it be a situation where they need to come to Parliament to seek approval? And what kind of approval would that be? What would that be called?
We will have to check that together.
A military operation?
I will consult that. But we have no option. If we need to pacify this place, Latif, we have no option. We will talk about it. We will fight and arrest leaders, and even have a lot of big language of commercialization and so on. And to me, that is diverting the entire attention. And therefore, you intimidate leaders, and you make everybody then look like they are criminals and so on. You criminalize almost everybody, because it is maybe very easy to talk about that, but we will not really have solved the problem. After 1 month, what happens? Then you leave that place. Then the same people will suffer forever. That is why I'm saying, why don't we try something? Please, I'm asking our government. I'm asking the people now who are in charge. My own colleagues and friends and HSET who are now in positions of power. Why don't we try something else? Why, for God's sake? Why don't we try something else, Latif? I'm asking. Why?
If there was a debate in Parliament, you'd have had the opportunity to ask those questions.
Yes, I would.
A matter like this,
in fact,
is on the floor.
If a debate
those questions.
is brought to Parliament.
So my question right now to you is: so yes, there was an operation. Well, there was a raid that you say happened on Saturday. There were 2 men were killed, thousands of livestock were driven. You're a member of Parliament representing this community. What are you going to do next?
I think you're asking for my way forward.
Yes,
and I'll give you. And you are very clever, Latif, I'll give you some A if you want to give you some. But I have about 3 or so, Latif. Number 1, I want to ask the government, now that we've lost 2,000 animals, for us even and for the people around Kainuk to even get some confidence, they must return those 2,000 animals. Right? Bare minimum. Mm-hmm. Even for us even to listen to them and take them seriously and take government seriously. Because you know what, Latif? You cannot have peace without dialogue.
Okay.
So this government will must dialogue at some point with Pokot leaders.
So if no animals?
Let me not give a threat.
Okay.
I want us to join hands together with them. We want to give them our surety.
So even if it's not the same animals that were taken, a replacement of those animals?
Let it be.
Will that survive? Okay.
Yes, it's animal for us in Pokot. There's no cow that's written Pokot.
Right.
Even Turkana can also be their cow, right? So, but they should return those to for heaven's sake, for confidence sake, right? Even for us.
That is number 1.
Number two, I'm asking the same government, now that there is the entire place is disturbed. Point number 2, now that they have also deployed KPR or NPR in the other communities, right? Without looking at fairness and justice, I'm asking them to deploy and to recruit KPR and NPR in Pokot with immediate effect. And this is how they're going to start. My suggestion, because I'm still thinking about that age group, which are being misused as cattle rustlers or bandits, 15 years. I'm asking the government to look at the following divisions in West Pokot. Number 1 division is Masol, where it is the most disturbed now. And for children to school, they should start by recruiting 3 NPR in every primary school, secondary school, and a nursery school. They must start with that.
What do you mean?
So that our children, who will take care of those children?
Or recruit and deploy to school?
Yes, first of all, to
not
begin with
recruit from the school?
No.
Okay.
Recruit, because they will be locals. NPR are locals.
Okay.
So that in everywhere there's an institution, a school, a nursery, or a secondary school. Because we are taking care of that age set, which are being used as bandits. That the government should immediately right? Even if they might not like us, they might not like Pokot, or they might have entered or bought the propaganda that the Pokots are bad, I want to ask them, for heaven's sake and for God's sake, that they should deploy NPR in that division called Masol. They should also deploy in Napoleon division of Kasai area and Takwel. They should also look at Chesekon. We have lost Latif, an entire division called Chesekon between Pokot and Marakwet, which I didn't speak about it now. That they should deploy those NPRs there and Kamele, for example, in Pokot South. Let them start in terms of goodwill. I want to ask them to do those two things. Number one, to return the animals, and number two, to deploy NPR and employ NPR with immediate effect. So that you know what? So that you gain a community confidence. Now, at the moment, if you go to West Pokot, the entire Pokot community, right? If you look at their mood is very low. Particularly to this
They're
government.
demoralized.
They are very demoralized. So if you are to do those two things, then the third one will be. Then the third one will be. Now let us engage. Let us dialogue.
After that.
There is no peace without dialogue. There is no justice without dialogue. And you dialogue with the leaders. You cannot just assume that communities have no leadership. Communities have leadership. You dialogue with those leaders.
Final question. We have only 20 seconds to go. So you've told us this here. What next are you doing? Are you going to Parliament to raise this? Are you going to Kindiki's office? Are you going to the President's office? What are you going to do after you leave here?
I'll give them time. I'll tell you this, Latif.
Are you writing to them?
Of course, they are aware of what I'm saying. Some of them are also watching me now. Okay. And I'll tell you, why am I saying that? Because we've tried, Latif. We've tried. And nothing has happened. So, wait and see.
David Kosing, MP, Pokot South constituency, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll keep asking you for more updates,
yes,
and to hold you accountable as well. You're elected by the people of Pokot South,
yes,
to represent them.
Yes.